All righty. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, all across the fruited plains. Welcome to our workshop this evening on the psychology of the sale. I'm Gary Keith, your host for this workshop, also known as the doctor of insurance. I'll tell you why I'm the doctor, because I've gone through this whole process and program for the past 30 years in insurance, 40 years in sales, and I've got my PhD, known as Poor, Hungry, and Driven, in this business. And you learn what to do, what not to do. You learn how to get better at this game we call selling in general, and you learn what works and which is the quickest way to success in this business. I'm all about closing and closing at a high level. I promise you from day one that if you're closing at a 25% level, I'm going to get you to 50. If you're at a 50% closing level, I'll get you to 75. And if you're at a 75% closing level, I want to show you how to get to 90. And nobody can close everybody, so I got to give a little 10% leadway there. But in me and my business, I've learned through the years, I've come from a poor closer to being scared of my own shadow, to being afraid to say certain things, to learning how not to say certain things, to learning how to handle the objections up front versus all the objections at the end, and learning how to close at a high level. And that's what I'm going to teach you how to do. You bring me your sales aches and pains, I'm going to bring you some healing. I'm going to bring you some remedies to the sales issues that you have on a daily basis. I can promise you that if you'll implement, that you'll apply most all, if not all, the principles I'm teaching you, your closing percentage is going to be at a much higher level than it is right now. You're going to gain more confidence. You're going to have more courage. You're going to know what to say, how to say it. You're going to have the client, in many situations, eating out of the palm of your hand. Why do I say that? Because sales is not something you do to people. It's something you do for people and with people. Make sure you take a note of that one. Sales is not something I do to people. It's something I do with them and for them. Used to years ago, thinking I was a pain. I was bothering people. I was a nuisance. I was like a used car salesman, or whatever you want to attach to what you think that you are sometimes, if you're bothering people. I've learned that's not the case. My job is as important as, and that's why I put myself in the category as the doctor, the lawyer, the banker, the accountant, or anybody else who's important in Miss Betty or Mr. Billy's life. Why? Because when it comes time when Miss Betty passes away, I am just as important as all those people, and probably more so at that time in their family's life. While everybody else is bringing them bills, I'm bringing them a check. And I tell Miss Betty that because I want that to resonate and hit home. The doctor at that stage is doing nothing for Miss Betty and her family. The attorney might, but not in final expense cases in most situations. The banker is probably doing very little to nothing for that family. The accountant is doing nothing for that family. Anybody else who they hold in prestige in their life, besides maybe their pastor, is doing very little to nothing for that family. I'm a hero at this point. I'm the person coming in on the white horse, waving a flag and leading the cavalry. I'm bringing the monies to the family, and I'm bringing them income tax free to that family. It bypasses probate. It bypasses creditors. It won't get tied up anywhere. Cash is king. And I'm providing that cash for Miss Betty and Mr. Billy. And let me tell you something. That means a lot to me. That's why I'm no longer a bother or a nuisance or a problem or a headache, or I'm getting in the way of people's dinner or supper or lunch or wherever they're going. What I'm doing is extremely important in that family's life. I hope that makes sense to you. I hope that's resonating with you. I hope when you pick up that phone the next time you make a phone call, you're going like, they need me. They need my service. They need what I have. I've got to get to them. I learned from Zig Ziglar years ago, and you can write this one down too, if you will. You can have everything in life you want if you help enough other people get what they want. I pondered that. I chewed on that a lot in my beginning stages of sales. I've tried to understand what Zig was talking about. And it's true. What do people want in general? They want peace of mind. They want happiness. They want some comfort. They want love. They want friends. They want family. I mean, those are the things that people really, truly want in life. Money is a byproduct of that. Money can bring some of that. Money can also destroy some of that. But people really want those things, which are the intangibles of life. Well, what we do is help bring peace of mind to Miss Betty and her family at this time of need. That's what we're doing on a daily basis. Once you get that, and once you feel that, once you understand that, then you're no longer a nuisance or a problem or a headache or a nightmare or bothering people. Even if they're rude to you, even if they reject you, you say in your mind, I'm excited about helping the next person I come in contact with. That's your mindset on a daily basis, no matter what happens. The last person I went today, which was an appointment, which I mentioned on the WhatsApp, I went up to this apartment and this gentleman was just feeding me all kind of BS. He was just feeding me so much stuff that I'm sitting there just shaking my head thinking, I got to get out of here as soon as possible, because he is not someone who's going to allow me to help him today. His mind is way yonder place, and it's not even correct or accurate. But I'm not going to spend the time to try to change his mind. That's not what I do for a living. But on my way in, as I mentioned before, I saw Miss Betty sitting on the porch. No appointment, no lead. But you know what I'm going to do? Miss Betty's going to have a conversation with me, or at least I'm going to try to have a conversation with her. We said hi when I walked up to the place. She smiled, I smiled, beautiful day, small pleasantries. In my mind, I'm saying to myself, if she's sitting there when I come back around from this guy's apartment, she's getting approached. I'm just going to do it. Why? Why do I do that? For the fun of it? Not necessarily, but because I think, this is me personally, God leads me to where I need to be that day. I'm on a mission. I'm on a crusade. I don't know if it's going to be the guy who just totally was lost today in a different world, different planet. I knew I couldn't help or change. Or was it Miss Betty, whom I didn't have a lead card on? I don't know. I'm going to open my mouth, though, and give it a shot. What do I have to lose? I'm on a mission to change lives, make a difference, make an impact, help that family's life. I don't know what her situation is. She may tell me to go pound sand. You know, hit the road, Jack. She may tell me that, but she may not. I began talking to her. She's still working. She has a group plan. You and I both know what's going to happen with a group plan when you retire. Most time you don't get to keep it. If you do, the price is so high you can't afford it. If you're brand new in this business, that needs to resonate. Take a note of this. If Miss Betty says, well, I got plenty of insurance, I got 25,000, 100,000 at work. Miss Betty, I commend you and keep that for as long as you can, as long as you got a job. But did you realize? Ask questions, the Socratic method of selling, right? Don't tell people things, ask them a question. Did you realize that when you retire, you're going to lose that life insurance, or you're going to come off the group plan to an individual plan? They're going to make it so high you can't afford it because it's term insurance. Did you know that? No, I didn't. Yes, ma'am. Did you realize that when you do retire and that happens, that you could be in a position health-wise, that your health may not be as good as this today, that you may not be able to qualify for life insurance in a couple, 2 or 3 years when you retire? Did you realize that? Socratic method of selling. You're going to learn more by asking than by telling. No one likes to be told anything. I could say, now, Miss Betty, listen, now when you retire, you're going to lose that. And Miss Betty, your health is not going to be any good. And you need to get something in place right now. Well, I could. I think it lessens your chances because people start getting defensive and their feathers ruffle up. Try that with a teenager. If you've raised teenagers before, or kids in general, try telling a teenager something versus asking questions and watch the difference. I mean, I'm a father of 8. I got 8 kids. I don't know everything, but I know something about raising teenagers. And I realized that when this voice gets high and hard and tough, and I start making demands, that teenager will shut you down in a heartbeat. Now, we could go back to old school, whereas our parents didn't care. If you gave them a wrong look or you shut them down, they would take a stick to your rear end or a belt or whatever they get their hands on. We don't live in that world now. It is a different world. I realize that maybe some still do the old school stuff, and I'm not saying to do that or not do that, right? Spare the rod, spoil the child, right? That's what the good book says. So, but I learned that if I asked questions and kept the communication lines open with the teenagers, and this isn't a class on parenting, I realize that, but it holds the same truth to when you're dealing with clients. This relationship building is all it is. The Socratic method of selling, even though you know the answer, you got the answer. But just by asking a question and hearing them say it, they believe it more. They believe it more when you do that. So try this. The next time you approach one of your clients, try asking questions, even though you know the answer. And so I said to Miss Betty, she goes, wow, I kind of heard that before, is what she said. I didn't understand it. I said, yes, ma'am, it is the truth. I've been doing this for almost 30 years. And a lot of times, unfortunately, people who are on group plans get caught with their pants down when they retire. They're going to wait till they retire, thought they get to keep their life insurance, or at least at a place they can afford it. They realize they can't. Now they got a problem. They got diabetes with neuropathy. And about 90% of the insurance companies out there won't take you diabetic neuropathy. They got a problem. Now I got a solution because I'm an independent broker and I can help a lot of people with many different companies, but it's hard to get it and the price becomes higher. So let me make a recommendation to you. You see the mindset as you come across this, as you soft pedal it, as you ask questions, then you come with a solution. Now let me make a recommendation to you. Here's what I recommend. That's what the doctor does. The doctor pokes here, prods here, looks here, searches here, put the stethoscope up here and goes, how long's that been going on? And what happens when I do this? Or how about that? Okay. And how do you feel when this happens? Okay. Let me make a recommendation to you. That's how that works. That's how the professional does it out there, comes across as the expert in the business. So as you learn to do that, I'm going to promise you that you'll get better at what you do. So learn that you are bringing something to them they need and want. We just got the courage, have the courage to give it to them, but we're doing a Socratic method of selling. Now, past few weeks, I've been giving you a lot of stuff that's going to help you with the psychology of the sale. It goes in deeper than just a little presentation that we're going to memorize in the 5 steps. That gives you not only the why, but the what and the how. Those things are just as important as the why. Why you say, what you say, and how you say it. How you say it is tonality. It's lowering your voice. It's upping your voice. It's getting a little bit softer. It's learning to pause at certain words. It's learning to elongate. Now, Miss Betty, the reason why this life insurance is probably the best for you, you learn to enunciate and you learn to elongate certain words and pause on them. That's all the speaking patterns that you want to get used to using. Remember, if you haven't written this down, get ready. People will often forget what you say, but they will never forget how you made them feel. I want to say that on every time we have a training session, because it's not so much what you say, although sometimes it is. It's all a lot of times in how you say it and the emotion and passion that you're putting into that. All righty. Thank you, Edwin, for that comment. Grew up with the rod, stick, belts. Brother, I know exactly what you're talking about. Man, it got to the point, though, where my mom, she would just look at me a certain way, and I'm sure yours was the same way. Fire was coming from her ears. And I knew that woman meant business. And if I said one more word across one more line, I was toast. I think that's how you probably felt too, Edwin, and many other people on here. Oh, man. Gosh, I remember those days. I think I still got whelps on my legs from the sticks that Mama said, you go get yourself a whip out here. You better not bring anything in here that's going to break the first time I hit you. It better be a good solid whip, boy. You knew she meant business. Those were the days, that's for sure. Okay, now now we're going to rehash a little bit, and we're going to go back a little bit because I don't want to go too fast. I want you to be able to absorb this. I want you to be able to absorb this. These things I'm sharing with you are years and years and years worth of just amazing stuff by the greats that I'm sharing with you. And we're going to go back a little bit. We're going to go back to when I started talking about the introduction, which was learning the final expense market, learning your clientele. What I want to know from somebody, anybody, everybody, what have you done differently in the past couple of weeks to learn something about your market? Type it in. What have you done? Are you reading a book on it? Did you go see a movie about it? You cutting out articles about it? Did you start watching the same TV shows that Miss Betty's watching? What are you doing or have you done in the past couple of weeks to learn something about your market that was different than what you were probably doing a few weeks back? Are you talking about the Western Channel and Judge Judy and The Price is Right and all that stuff and the Wild Kingdom with Marlon Perkins and Mutual of Omaha? Or what are you doing that Miss Betty knows that you are walking a mile in her shoes? That's what that means. That you're walking and singing out of the same hymn book that Miss Betty is. And she knows it because you're speaking her language. I want to know from you, what are you doing? Let's hear some chats on this. Great. Fanny's attending more meetings. Yes, you meaning more meetings with the client or more meetings with us on learning about how to do with Miss Betty? So clarify that. I love that. Who else? Who's done something different? I think I shared with you my story in long-term care insurance almost 30 years ago. I knew nothing about it. I'm in my early 30s and I'm looking at World War II veterans, and I'm getting ready to speak to a 65, 70-year-old man a woman who's been through more in life than I'll ever go through, and loss of limbs and loss of digits and shrapnel up and down their body and can't half hear and can't half see. And I'm going to go tell this man or this woman how to spend their money. And they're probably thinking, where did this young whippersnapper came from who's still wet behind the ears and has a runny nose? Who is he to tell me what to do with my assets? So I recognized that early on. I had to change something or I was not going to be in that business. Let's see what you're doing to do this kind of stuff. But this is important to you. Learn about it. Okay. With retirement life learning, great, Fanny. That's great. Yes, keep attending the meetings. Keep taking the notes. Keep being a part. That's how you learn and grow. Excellent. Joe, you are been more attentive to the elder community everywhere you go. Church, grocery store, VA. Perfect. Perfect. Yeah, I mean, go do some service somewhere, like at a senior center or the VA, or as you say, just observing seniors in general in your community at church. Yes, my goodness gracious, good places, grocery store. Be observant of them, what their needs are, listening to their stories, pausing maybe to speak to a senior. Boy, they'll give you an earful about their life, about what they've been through. And that's a great learning ground to spend some time with a senior. If you got grandparents, go spend time with them. If your spouse has spend time with them. What was your life like? What'd you go through? I remember someone told me at the time I was going through this World War II stuff. I said, why does all these seniors drive Buicks and live in these little small, ranch brick houses? And someone says, go read the book, The Millionaire Next Door. I said, what's that got to do with anything? He said, that's the generation. That's the people. They don't flash stuff. They don't show off stuff. They don't spend unwisely. They went through the Depression. They hold on to everything they've got. You want to see them driving fancy cars, living in fancy houses. I said, Okay. They were worried there's going to be another Great Depression. They're going to hold on to the money. But don't let the way they dress and the way they look and what they drive fool you, because they save rather than spend. My gosh, I learned so much about that. I mean, that made a difference to me. Huge difference. Okay. Melvin asking more questions in the beginning while establishing rapport. Excellent job with doing that. That's how you learn about your seniors, what their loves are, their likes are, their passions are. You're going to learn to ask more questions. It's back to the old Socratic method of selling. You'll learn more by asking than you will by telling all day long. All day long. Great. Michael, you said you read a new book, Go for No, so far as in general. Thanks to Jan for recommending the book. Great. Yes, I haven't read that yet. I've been meaning to, and it's on my list, and I hear great things about that. So please feel free to share sometimes some revelations that you're having while you're going through this. Help us all get better, because I'm all about getting better. And if that will help us get better in our business, please share. Also, Melvin, more of what they watch on TV, more of what they watch what they like to do. Yes, I'm with you on that. I watch what Miss Betty likes to watch. The other day I was in there, I think I may have told you, they had Jerry Springer going wide open, wide open. I said, Miss Betty, do you mind if we turn that down just a little bit? I'm kind of hard of hearing. My wife says I have selective hearing, but okay, either way. And she said, oh yeah, no problem. I said, but I love watching Jerry Springer too. And we kind of commented on some things they were doing on Jerry Springer, and it was just fun back and forth. Also asking what they like to do. That's a great question. I mean, they like to spend time with their grandkids, taking walks, maybe going on mini vacations, whatever it might be. I speak with seniors more when I'm out and about during the day. Love it, man. I'm telling you. If you go into a final expense neighborhood with a final expense lead, guess what? You don't have to drive all over Timbuktu to find the next final expense senior. You don't. They're right there at the place that you are right now. Matter of fact, you can just knock on the doors of the people where that lead came from and never have to drive anywhere else. And you're going to get sales. I proved it today. When I walked by the lady who's sitting right there and she happened to be sitting outside, that's usually always what I'm going to do if I see someone outside. I'm going to approach them no matter what. No matter if I get shot down, it doesn't matter. I'm going to approach them because oftentimes they have some interest. Oh, I forgot to tell you the last part of that. While I was sitting there with Miss Betty doing her application outside, her daughter gets dropped off the bus. She's working at McDonald's. She's 32 years old. So guess what? I'm here helping your mom with her life insurance. And guess who she chose as her beneficiary? You. And she gets all smiles. I said, I'm help people, make sure to get things in place before it's too late. The younger you are, the better off you'll be down the road. But this is whole life it locks in. It's permanent insurance, blah, blah, blah. Who do you have your covers with now? I don't have you. I've been thinking about getting some. Oh, okay. Well, listen, if you'll hang tight, I'll be glad to help you. Time ran out with us, and I got an appointment to go back tomorrow at 4:30. Help the daughter, and she's got 2 children. I'm letting you know you don't have to drive across the county chasing another lead if you don't want to. Miss Betty's right there in every little place, right there in a row where you just got that lead from. You literally, if you hustle enough or hungry enough, could take no leads and hit a final expense market and make sales. You can. I've proven it can be done. All righty, very good. If you think of anything else, or if you've implemented, where you are learning about your market, I want to know about it. What are you doing that's making you understand your clientele? Do you understand who they are? Do you understand they're the humble, salt of the earth people? They're retired and disabled. Do you understand that when you drive up to a home or an apartment or whatever, and you don't see a car out front, that should never deter you. Don't you ever drive by that without still knocking on that door. Why? Many seniors are disabled and don't drive. Boy, I learned that the hard way. I had a 55-year-old person with a lead mailed in, drove up to the house, not a car in sight. I'm thinking to myself, boy, there's nobody here. This was early on. Sure enough, she's there, disabled, doesn't drive, takes city transportation. Happens a lot. Happens a lot. So those are things where you're learning about your market that you may or may not know. I always use this phrase, Miss Betty, you got two things working against you, just like the lady today, 59 years young, still working, got group insurance, thinks she's fine. I planted a seed. You got something working against you, though, Miss Betty, that may not have in a couple of years. You're going to be 2 or 3 years old when you retire, but you may not be able to qualify because of your health. That's called creating a sense of urgency in everything that we do. Okay, I want you to understand that. And then this one here, this is the best referral generating market in the insurance industry. I'll challenge you to find any better in the insurance market. You won't get it in mortgage protection. You won't get in IUL sales. You'll get in long-term care sales. You won't get in cancer sales. You won't get in Medicare sales. You will get it in final expense burial insurance. Why? Because most of them have recently had to bury somebody with no or very little life insurance. And it made an impression upon their mind. They said, I don't want my kids to ever have to go through this. That's why they refer their family, friends, brothers, sisters, neighbors, kids, everybody else. Beautiful. It's just beautiful. There's no question about it. Okay, moving on. Last time, or a couple of weeks ago, we talked about connectivity stage, which is what you call warm-up, you call rapport. Connectivity is different. Connectivity is where you not just saying words, but you're actually getting down to the nitty-gritty. You're connecting with someone on their level, right? And I got the adage, if you haven't written this down, please do. Many people communicate, but very few people connect. I'm looking for connection. What have you done in the last couple of weeks during your rapport building session where you're connecting versus just saying words? What have you done differently in the last couple of weeks now when you're getting ready to do your warm-up or rapport building section? Send me some notes here on the chat line. What are you doing differently? What's changed? How have you approached this rapport building stage? And what are you doing differently? Are you listening more? Asking more questions? Acting like a detective? Are you using the form method? Family, occupation, recreation, money? Are you doing more eye contact? Are you watching body language? Are you watching what's not being said versus what's being said? Are you watching facial expressions? What are you doing? What are you doing differently in this connectivity stage? This part, along with the next one, which is building credibility stage, is the sale. It's where the sale is made. Now, give me a thumbs up if you were on the call this morning with Rob Boyd and Taiwan Bond. Give me a thumbs up if you were on that call this morning, because this is very important. Give me a thumbs up if you were on that call this morning. Okay. All righty, good. Taiwan said something at the end that's critical. Hope you picked it up. Rob was asking him some questions about what's different, what's changed, what are you facing, blah, blah, blah. And Taiwan said, boy, if there's one thing I could use help on, will be learning how to handle objections better, learning how to have that person believe that they are the expert, that they got the answers, that they have the trust and the confidence in him or her. I saw some other people pitch in as well and make a very similar statement. They wanted to know, gosh, how can I handle objections better and make me come across as a person they trust and believe in and want to do business with? That's what he was saying. I'll give you a secret. It's right here. It's right here. When you become the detective, not the interrogator, but the detective, and you're keeping the ball up in the air by asking Miss Betty, family, occupation, recreation, money, and you're spending time doing that, you've built your case. But this becomes the icing on the cake. This is where the sale is made. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is called where Katie bars the door. Right here. If you learn a good, solid credibility statement after you've connected, you're not going to have any objections at the end. Nope. Very little to none. Most time, none. Remember, people aren't buying a product. They're buying you. People aren't buying a product. They're buying you. They're buying your believability, your trust factor, your passion, your courage, your confidence. And if you're closing at a low level, they haven't bought you. It's as simple as that. Now, when someone told me that many moons ago, I started taking objection to that. What do you mean people aren't buying me? I'm a nice guy. I comb my hair. I had hair back then. I brush my teeth. I present well. Yeah, but they still aren't buying you. They aren't buying you as the expert. They aren't buying you as the one and only. They aren't buying you as the greatest. They aren't buying you as the one they should do business with and not kick the tires, sleep on it, pray on it, check around, whatever. They aren't buying it. I thought to myself, why? What was it? What's keeping that from happening? Because you didn't take the time to go eye to eye, belly to belly, and toe to toe, and explain to them why they should be buying from you. Why you are the expert. See, here's where most people are missing the boat on this. They go from warm up straight into the presentation without giving them a reason why you are the expert. We haven't given them a reason. I got to take the time and pause and do that. Give me a thumbs up if you have already been putting together your personal credibility statement. This is what separates the boys from the men and the girls from the women. This is it. I'm going to tell you, this is the secret to success and closing at a high level and not getting to think about objection and not getting anything as far as a put off objection. If you haven't started writing your credibility statement, please, this week, take the time. Please take the time. When I look at Miss Betty and I do certain things like, gosh, I could talk to you all day, Miss Betty, about your wonderful kids, about your life and about what you're doing. You're amazing. You really are. But I know you got places to go, people to see, and things to do. That's my bridge, my transition into this. Let me begin by saying, Miss Betty, that this is what I do full time for a living. I've dedicated my life over the past 30 years helping people get things in place before it's too late. I'm licensed by the state. These programs are approved by the state. Look at the credibility I'm just gaining here immediately from the beginning. Just listen to this. Now, Miss Betty, I hope you live to be 100. And most times you go, hallelujah, I claim that. You know, with your longevity, your family, Miss Betty, you probably are going to crack 100. I'm also planting that seed. She's going to need more insurance because she only has 10,000 for her burial, but she's only 65 in great health. Her parents are still living at 85. Her grandparents live to 90 or whatever it may be. Planting that seed, she's going to need more. I hope you live to be 100, but we don't know what tomorrow brings, Miss Betty. Now learn to ask rhetorical questions. It's called an attention getter. It grabs you. And during your presentations, you want to learn to grab people's attention. If you don't, you're going to put them to sleep. But we can't afford that to happen. We got to keep them engaged because this is too important to fall asleep. Miss Betty, do you know the best part about my job? See, when you ask them a question like that, they're going to feel like they need to respond. I'm not looking for an answer. Most time they shake their head. The best part about my job, Miss Betty, pause, is when your daughter Mary is going to give me a call down the road, and she's going to say, I understand my mom had a policy with you. We need to use it. And Miss Betty, I'm not glad she had to make that call. I'm not glad she has to use a policy. All I am thankful for is that you had the foresight today to get something in place for her down the road so she won't have to make that call. Does that make sense? Gosh, there's so much psychology in that statement. There's so much. It's called the assumptive sale. I'm already assuming Miss Betty's getting it. I'm already assuming that she's going to pass and her daughter's going to make a phone call. I've already planted the seed. That's going to happen. And I'm using her daughter's name, which is Mary. There's so much to that. That shows up. That's called the ownership close. I already own it. This also shows the assumptive close. So there's two closes going on here. You project in their minds that you see themselves already owning it. They're buying it, holding it. The daughter's making a phone call, and she's taking care of her burial cost with this. That's the best part about my job, Miss Betty. Do you know the worst part about my job? Another rhetorical question. An attention getter. You got to listen. You're not even sure when I'm going to ask you a question next time, so it's making you listen more. Worst part about my job, Miss Betty, is when I see kids like your daughter Mary having to go around beg, borrowing, and stealing, trying to collect money to bury their parents. That's hard, isn't it? Yeah, it is. Have you ever seen that happen? Oh, yeah. When? Well, my brother, he passed away 2 years ago, and he was hard-headed, and he had lung cancer. And we all begged him to make sure he had his life insurance in order. He said he did, but he didn't really. And he passed away, and I'm the oldest sister. So the burden fell upon me. I have to go around asking family members, and you see who your real family members and friends are when something like this happens, because everybody was broke, so they said. I had very little that I could collect. My daughter helped me put together a GoFundMe account, and we collected about $2,500, and we cremated him. That was against his will. He didn't want that to happen. And we come from a long line of families believing in burial, and it really hurt me. It hurt my family's heart that we had to cremate him. We didn't really want to do it, but we had to. How did that make you feel, Miss Betty? Made me feel awful. And it sounds like you're still feeling that. Yeah, it does. I mean, it made an impression upon me. I never want my daughters to have to go through that. Why is that so important to you? Well, because they shouldn't have to worry about things like that. That's something that we as parents, and she's going to go on and on and on. And this is called selling yourself. This is also part of the Socratic method of selling, that you don't tell people the reason why they need it. They tell themselves why they need it, because they're going to believe themselves more than they will somebody else. Miss Betty, I can see now why you sent the card in. Well, listen, not to bore you with my story. I grew up on a farm. Then you got an impactful story that you're going to tell. Something's going to come across that you've walked a mile in her shoes. You can relate. And she's going to say, that guy knows exactly how I feel. Grew up on a farm in South Carolina. We raised everything. Remember those days? You do? You had some farm work too? Yeah, I know what you mean. Tough days, right? Tobacco fields, cotton, corn, soybeans, big garden, cows, pigs. Yeah, everything. Yeah, I know what you mean. We lived off the land. And my dad said, look, son, if you don't work, you don't eat. He meant it too. And we worked hard. But you know what, Miss Betty? He made me go to church every Sunday, whether I wanted to or not. Ladies and gentlemen, I make this statement because it's true, number one. But number two is, this is this market. This is the market that we're dealing with. If I'm in selling long-term care insurance, I'm probably not going to say that. And I didn't say it because that wasn't the market I was in at the time. This is that market. This is the Bible Belt. This is the people who get up and go to church or read their Bibles, or at least try to go to church and read their Bible. I understand the market. So I can make that statement in full confidence because I know what Miss Betty is going to say 9 out of 10 times. Yeah, same thing. I'm walking a mile in her shoes. You know the reason why people don't buy? Because we don't relate to people. They go, that person doesn't understand me. They haven't been where I've been. They can't speak my language. They don't know who I am down deep inside. All they are is after a paycheck and a sale. That's what people feel. They don't tell you that. You know what people tell you? This sounds pretty good, but do you mind if I take a few days and think about that? They're not going to say things like, I'm not going to buy from that person. They were running all over the words I was saying. They were half listening to what I was saying. They had no clue what I was even really talking about. They didn't relate to me down deep inside. They were just kind of going through motions. No one's going to tell you that. But here's the telltale sign. Here's their language. Yeah, this sounds pretty good. Doesn't sound too bad. Do you mind if you leave your card with me, and if I can get back with you here in a few days or so? And you play this cat and mouse game for days and days and days. That was me years ago. I know. I lived it. I was just going through the motion, going through a set presentation. There was none of this stuff. I'm just reading some words off of a paper. Big difference in putting your feeling in it, putting your passion into it, and saying things like, my dad, he made us go to church. Remember those days, Miss Patty? Oh yeah. You had to go to, oh yeah, every Sunday. And you had to be home at a certain time on Saturday night. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Now you say, Gary, you're an old man. That's why you can relate to these people. Maybe. But I wasn't an old man when I was selling insurance 30 some years ago. And I had to relate to a generation that was much older. I learned their language. I learned what they thought. I learned how they acted and reacted. I learned what their hot buttons were. I learned what made them go. I told them stories of my own grandparents, my own aunts and uncles. So I got good at that. I learned to walk a mile in their shoes. Or what about you? Are you walking a mile in your client's shoes, your prospect's shoes? This is the reason why a lot of times they want to think about it. They give you objections at the end. So yeah, you do too, Miss Betty? Oh yeah, I can relate to you with that, Miss Betty. Well, listen, once again, not to bore you, but my dad, he turned 49 on the farm. He had an accident, and it was a sad day. It ended up taking his life. I'm the oldest boy. He had no life insurance. He meant to get around to it, but never did. But who thinks he's going to die at 49? He was self-employed, didn't have anything. He's busy raising kids, just trying to keep food on the table. And he left my mom in a pretty bad situation. Didn't mean to. There's no anger, animosity. It's just what happened. And she struggled. She struggled raising us kids on her own. When I got big, I said, Mom, listen, I'm going to go do this kind of work for a living. And she thought, son, you mean farming? I says, no, ma'am. I'm going to go educate the public about getting things in place, getting their life in order before it's too late. So I says, Miss Betty, listen, this is no longer a job for me. It's a mission. It's a crusade. Helping people get things in place before it's too late. And Miss Betty, don't ask me anything about being a school teacher, which is what you did for 30 years. But not bragging. If you don't know something about insurance, I'm your guy. I'm an expert in the business. This is what I do full-time for a living. You don't have to send any more cards. You don't have to call any more TV commercials. You don't have to have any more blue suede shoes people knocking your door, coming to your house. I'll be the last life insurance guy you'll ever need. Why? I'm independent. I'm a broker. I got all the answers. But more importantly, I'm going to be here for your daughter Mary at claim time. Very few other insurance agents will ever do that. I do. I go back, sit down with your daughter Mary, help her fill out the claim forms, get the death certificate, mail it back in, while everybody else is bringing her bills. Bring her a check. So, Ms. Betty, a quick question for you. If I can find you a really good company that offers affordable rates for this kind of stuff, in order to protect Mary down the road, would it make more sense to be insured rather than uninsured? It would. Let me roll up my sleeves and go to work for you. See if I can find you a good affordable product so that we can help your daughter Mary down the road. Make sense? Fair enough? Good. That's your personal credibility statement. Now listen, give me some feedback on the chat. I want you to tell me what you felt. I've done this last week and you've already heard it a time or two before. Give me your feelings. Remember, people forget what you say. but they don't forget how you make them feel. And once you get a person feeling a certain way in sales, then that client, they'll be clients with you forever. They'll keep it, they'll refer it, they'll add on more insurance. So this step is not just selling a life insurance policy. Anybody can sell final expense and have it canceled or not keep it 6 months or go with somebody else. That's not what I'm talking about. That's what happens with most people in sales in general, because they did really nothing except mow people over, go through a presentation, assert themselves on them, get them to sign the dotted line, run out the door as fast as they can. Next thing you know, that thing is not on the books anymore. That's not what I'm talking about. That's not selling. That's just wasting time and burning up people's time and money and yours too. This here is going to keep the competition out the door, because nobody else does a credibility statement. Nobody else says one. They don't. I know. I've been teaching sales for 40 years. Very few people ever do it. So with that in mind, you're going to be different. You're going to be unique. And once you set this, once you fine tune it, you're going to have to take some time to write your own personal credibility statement. Tell your story. Tell with passion. Ask your rhetorical questions. Now I'm in a position to be the doctor of insurance. I'm going to go through the need development, the needs analysis next. That's why I'm going to be able to ask any question I want to ask. I think it was Dan a few weeks back. He said, man, I've been presenting some mortgage protection stuff, and I asked people how much their mortgage is left on here or what their payment is or their interest rate or whatever. And people are blowing me away. Why do you know that information? That's really not pertinent to what we're looking for. Right. I know why. Because you got to set yourself up first as the credible doctor, the credible attorney, the credible accountant, the credible banker. You've got to earn that right to ask that question. And you may say, well, I've only been doing this now for a year or less. Who am I to come across as credible? You're going to have to dig up some confidence, because I remember doing the same thing my first year. I didn't say 30 years at the time. I've been doing this for a while, and I've dedicated my life to it, helping people get things in place before it's too late. You got to be able to feel comfortable with yourself and look yourself in the mirror and be able to be comfortable. If you're not, then it's going to come across. It's going to bleed through. They're going to see it. They're going to hear it in your tone. You've got to be passionate about what you're doing. When I was doing long-term care insurance, I was just starting out. My Aunt Alma, when I saw what my mom went through, taking care of her for 8 years in our house, and we couldn't go on a vacation. We had to watch Aunt Alma around the clock. She's going to burn the place down. She'd take walks and forgot to get home. She was acting like a 2-year-old. I thought it was funny as a teenager. I really did. When I learned a little bit more about dementia and Alzheimer's, it wasn't funny. She had a serious problem. And we didn't go on vacation anymore because our job was to take care of Aunt Alma. And mom was always going, where's Aunt Alma? Where is she? Go find her. Go follow her. That was no fun. So when I told a passionate story about that in my long-term care insurance, it got people's attention. I could walk a mile in their shoes. I could ask a question. I'm the expert in the business. I'm the doctor of insurance. I was only doing it for a few months, but I came across as the expert. When I started doing mortgage protection sales, when I told my story about Ramon coming home from work, driving to a church meeting on a bad storm, 6 kids, $100,000 worth of life insurance, new mortgage with his family. He overcorrects in the storm, hits a tree head on. One of the saddest stories and one of the saddest days of my life. Good friend. 6 children. $100,000 worth of life insurance. That's peanuts. It's nothing for his wife and a mortgage and 6 children. I tell that story. This is why I do what I do for a living, to help people like yourself who are young people get things in place before it's too late. Cash is king when you die. If you don't do something now about this, then you're going to have a foreclosure sign for the remaining spouse or person or family or kids or something. Something has to be done while your health is good and your age. We don't know what tomorrow brings. You're going to have to get a little bit excited about it, a little bit passionate about it, and have your stories in line. So I want you, I've taken another week here, I want you to spend some time writing your personal credibility statement. You won't get it all mastered in a day or two. You'll need to write a rough draft, correct that rough draft, write it again. Then you'll start practicing, getting your voice inflections down, getting your stories down, getting your rhetorical questions down. You say, gosh, man, this is a lot of work. I don't really need all this to close a, really? Okay, right. You don't need it to close a little insurance policy. No, you don't. But you're going to need it to keep on the books. You're going to need it to separate yourself from the competition. You're going to need it to brand yourself. You're going to need it to get referrals. You're going to need it to build an insurance practice. Now, if all you want to do is close a final expense application, a temporary close is what I call it, for it to cancel on you the next week or 2 or 3 months or 6 months and go with somebody else, then right, you don't need it. You want to separate yourself from every other Tom, Dick, and Harry selling insurance down the street. You do. And I know I do. I know what other insurance people do in the homes. I know it. They're not doing that. I just know it because I talked to Miss Betty. No, they didn't even leave a card. No, they didn't leave any brochures. No, they didn't leave anything. Well, who are they? I can't remember their name. Well, or they do remember their name and they never return my call. Oh, wow. That's a person who's in to make a quick buck and they're probably out of the business in less than a year. And we all see it. But if you want to be here a long time, keep it on the books, brand yourself, get referrals, and set yourself as the insurance guru, and you learn a credibility statement. You do. Now, a retirement income life, they don't necessarily teach that as part of the 5 steps. And that's fine. Everybody's got their own way of doing things. I highly recommend it as someone who's been doing sales my whole life. I saw what the greats are doing. And I've just mimicked what some of the greats have been doing through the years. It's what helped me get my closing rate up way high and keep on the books. Okay, let's see what we got so far because we're at 8:26 right now. And feel free to put some comments in. Tell me anybody who's working on the credibility statement. Where are you? What questions you have? If you want to come off of mute, you can do that as well. Thank you, Fanny, for saying that. Really kind of you. Joe, you said I've been trying to come up with a way to give truth with limited experience and years. I can't lie to them. Don't blame me, and you shouldn't, because it bleeds through worse than anything. But want them to know that I'm the person they've been looking for to come into the life without sounding arrogant. And you'll work on the words there a little bit, Joe, until you feel it right for you. Because in the beginning, I didn't say 30 years. I said, I've been doing this for quite some time now. And I've dedicated my life. That part is true. I've committed my life to helping people get things in place before it's too late. You don't even have to use a time if you don't want to. That's fine. Miss Betty, let me just say, first and foremost, I've dedicated my life to helping people get things in place before it's too late. This is why I do what I do for a living. You phrase that and you form it to where it's true to you. Because by all means, always be number 1, genuine. Number 2, be sincere. And number 3, be honest. And those 3 things will carry you a long ways in your presentation and your credibility statement, and everything you do. You can never lie about any of that stuff. It's always got to come out right. All right. I think you helped me just now find a way to explain that the 10,000 policy is not going to get the job done. Oh, good. I think you're meaning that, right, 10K, if they have it in place already, that's not going to be near enough. And you're absolutely right, because there's so many things we can do there with that. But good, Dan, if you picked up nothing else today, then that's super, because that's one of the reasons why during the warm-up, you call it connectivity stage, I'm asking about now. So Miss Betty, you're 65, you're looking great, you're real healthy. Are you folks still living? They are. My gosh. Your mom is what? She's 86. How about your dad? 87? Oh my goodness. You sure got some good genes, Miss Betty. Now watch this. Miss Betty, whatever you're eating and drinking, I want some of it. Whatever your family's eating and drinking, I want some of it. Make it a bit light, but you're positioning yourself. Got good genes. Miss Betty, I bet you're probably going to crack 100. I'm not saying that insincerely, but if she keeps doing what she's doing with her longevity and her family, with technology medication like it is, I would be surprised. And she'll go from your lips to God's ears, or something like that, or like, hallelujah, I claim that. I've got a lot working on my side now. If Miss Betty has 20,000 in place, doesn't matter to me, because it's not going to be enough. I know that. And I'm making statements all along like, and Miss Betty, cash is king. And Miss Betty, this money goes directly to your children. And Miss Betty, it bypasses probate and creditors and won't get tied up like bank account stuff does or retirement stuff does. This goes directly to the bypass. Cash is king. And all the monies you have in your savings account or checking account will get tied up for some time. This won't. So you're right. And with you going to be living like your parents are, Miss Betty, and you want to be buried, 10,000 will barely cover today. Let me highly recommend the doctor coming out now. The doctor, let me recommend, while your health is good and your age is good, they would add a little bit more. If I could find you a good company that offers affordable rates for this kind of stuff to protect Mary and Bob, would it make sense to add a little bit more coverage on to protect them versus not having some extra? It would. Okay, let me roll up my sleeves and go to work for you and see what I can provide for you and get you the best rate out there. Make sense? I've done a trial close, a temperature close, testing where I am. And if my credibility statement is good and my connectivity stage is good, that temperature check is going to be, yeah, that makes sense. If she goes, I don't know that I really need anymore. Going any further in my presentation until I figure out what are hot. I missed it. I missed the hot button somewhere. That's what temperature check questions does for you. It gives you a chance to go forward, stop, and go backwards. So I see, Miss Betty. Let me ask you a question. You don't mind me asking, how come you say that? How come you feel that way? That way I know what to do, where to go, and that'll be more later that we cover. So great. I didn't know how to get past the policy in place, but they wanted full funeral, no cremation either. Very good, Dan. That's how you get past that a lot. By me knowing her age, her parents' age, when they died, all that kind of good stuff. Also, it also lets me know things like longevity, but also what her goals are. Oh yeah, I got 10,000 in place right now. I'm planning on being buried. She's 65 years of age. Miss Betty, you've heard something called inflation, right? Yeah, this stuff is doubling about every 10 to 12 years, the cost of the stuff. So Miss Betty, you're only 65. By the time you're 75 to 80, it's going to be closer to about 20. Let me recommend something for you while your health, see that? You soft approach it, soft pedal it. You're the doctor. The doctor, that's what they do. Poke, prod, listen. Let me recommend something to you here while we can. I'm going to recommend that you get off of salts, at least lower your salt process while lower that blood pressure. I'm going to recommend that you lower your sugars as well while we're doing this. And what I want you to do is, that's the doctor. That's what they do. I'm going to recommend for you. All righty, Michael says, I know a lady whose husband passed away in his 50s unexpectedly, and she lost her house because of no protection. Beautiful, beautiful story, an example, true story right there. Whether you're selling mortgage protection, whether you're selling final expense, that's a great story to tell. And it happens. So many homes go into foreclosure when one spouse passes because they've lost one income. And if they don't have enough life insurance, they won't survive. And it happens so many times out there in the real world. Okay, who else has been working on stuff about with their credibility statement? Who else is working on this? Because this is what's going to take away the objections at the end. It's going to keep you from having to think about it. It's going to keep people from procrastinating on you. Let me tell you why. Because in their minds, they're going, gosh, I wasn't planning on buying the insurance today. But this person here, man, they come across as confident, passionate, and they come across as someone like the expert in the thing. Now, they don't say that, but their eyebrows tell it. Their eyes tell it. Their mouth tells it. Their body language tells it. Oh, I've seen it so many times. I used to play around with this stuff when I was doing long-term care insurance, and people making all this kind of big money and all these nice assets. I'm in these nice homes. I'm struggling in my little 1,200 square foot mobile home, raising kids, trying to figure out, man, these people must put their pants on different than I do. Man, they got all this money, all these assets. I'm poor, just struggling, trying to make it happen. Then I learned that gift, that art, that technique of watching their body language and doing a credibility statement. When I'd walk in the home, these folks would go, now listen, we just want to let you know something up front. We're just kind of kicking the tires and shopping around, and we're not sure what we're going to do if we're going to do anything. But anyway, we're glad you're here, and go ahead and tell us what you got to say, and Let's move on. I mean, it's just kind of emphatic like that. I'm like, in my brain, I started saying, they're mine. I know this a little bit arrogant, and I'm sorry, but they hadn't met a professional salesperson yet, a pro in what they're doing, and someone who believed in an expert in the business. No longer will I let them intimidate me. I'm just not. I was done with it. And when I sat there and looked these World War II veterans in the eyes, I said, let me explain to you why I do what I do for a living. I've dedicated my life to helping people get things in place before it's too late. And I would tell them the story of Aunt Alma and how we lost our life, not literally lost our life, but we didn't have a life anymore. My mom had no life. And I would say things like the caregivers wear out sometimes before the people they're giving care to. And Mr. Billy, is that what you want to happen to your lovely wife, Miss Betty? Where she has no life anymore? She's caring for you 24/7 around the clock. She's trying to lift a grown man dead weight off the floor. Is that what you want to happen? Well, I learned to say these things with passion and in the eyes and have a credibility statement. Next thing you know, Mr. Billy is taking his arms from here to here. He's taking himself back here with his pipe in the corner of his mouth and his glasses down his nose and pushing it up, taking the pipe out and leaning forward at the table. Perfect buying signs. I was reading them like a book. I knew that he was buying it without him saying a word. He was too arrogant to say things like, gosh, this makes sense, or wow, that was really good, or I need that. No, he ain't gonna say that. He's just gonna lean forward and his body's gonna tell me that. So ladies and gentlemen, I could go on forever and ever and ever on this stuff, and don't get me started because I will be on this thing forever and ever and ever. I want you to be practicing some of this stuff. That's why I paused today, didn't bring about anything new, because I want you to grasp the first few stages. This is where the buying is done. This is where the sale is made. It's not made in talking about Mutual of Omaha, although that's important. It's not made in your premium. That's sort of important. It's not made in talking about all the other stuff. It's made in the beginning of people buying you. If they buy you, they're going to listen to anything that you recommend to them. And hopefully you're honest, which I believe most of you are, probably all of you are. And you're going to recommend the right thing, not what's the best paycheck or highest commission, but what's right for the client. And if you do that, my gosh, it ceases to become selling where you almost like you feel like you're forcing yourself. People hate to be sold, but they love to buy. This is how you create a buying atmosphere. Your assignment this week is 3 things. Write them down. Learn something new this week about your market. What is something new about Miss Betty or Mr. Billy that I need to learn, or I need to get a better handle on or grasp on about this market? What is it? What do I need so that I can come across like I'm walking a mile in her shoes and speaking her language? What is it about this market? Do I need to watch a certain TV show or movie, read a certain book? Do I need to spend more time with some seniors? I need to volunteer somewhere at a senior place? What do I need to do to learn about my market more? Now, when I approach Miss Betty or Mr. Billy, he's lost a leg, but I'm volunteering at the VA hospital or the VA place, and I'm talking to veterans. Similar situations of people who are like you, Mr. Billy. You have a grandparent. Do you have grandparents you can talk to? How about parents that are getting up in age? Chat with them. That's number 1. Number 2, what are you going to do to do a better job with connectivity? Instead of just coming across as kind of rotely just going through, oh, that's your family. Oh, yeah, that's a nice fish on the wall. Oh, I see. Well, who's this and who's that? Oh, that's great, Miss B, a lovely family. Okay, you jump in the presentation. How are you doing with your connectivity? What are you going to do different to connect with Miss Betty? How are you going to be a better detective? And asking more questions and doing a lot more listening and watching the body language at the same time. What are you going to do this week? Number 3, this is the biggie. Start putting pen to paper with your credibility statement. Go ahead, just make yourself do it. turn off the TV tonight, tomorrow night, the next night, and start pinning out what you want to say. Give me a reason why I should buy you from you. Give me a reason why I should trust you. Give me the reason why you are the expert and I should get it from you versus somebody else. Tell me. Write that down. What's unique about you? What's different about you? Who are you? Give them a little bit of your soul. Give them a little bit of your heart. And speak from there, not from here. Speak from your heart. And let Miss Betty and Mr. Billy feel that. Whatever that is, that's why I can't write your credibility statement for you. You got to write it because I haven't walked a mile in your shoes to know your story. But what is your story? Who in your family has passed away with no life insurance? Who in your family has struggled with things in life? What story do you have that you can share with someone? How'd you grow up? What was your life like? How'd your parents grow up? How can that relate to Miss Betty in your credibility statement? When I say things like, shoot, I grew up on a farm in South Carolina, I realize that probably most of you didn't do that. So figure out what you did. Your family did. My folks were blue collar workers at the cotton mill, and blah, 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 or the tobacco farms in Durham, North Carolina, or somewhere in the textile mills, whatever. Have you ever done that, Miss Betty? You ever heard of that? Oh, yeah. That's what my parents and grandparents did. Walk a mile in their shoes. What's your story? What's your family story? How can that relate to Miss Betty? Did you go to church growing up? Maybe you did, maybe you did. That's up to you. I know that most Miss Bettys did and do. I know they're Bible people. I know that. So I'm gonna go down that road because I can relate there. Where do you relate? Where is it that Miss Betty can look at you and go, wow, okay, we got something very similar there. What's your story? Can you look someone in the eyes and say, this is no longer a job for me. It's a mission, it's a crusade, helping people get things in place before. Can you say something along those lines that's emphatic and passionate, sincere and genuine? Can you? That's your homework for this upcoming week. I want you to really get these down before I go to the next steps, because if we don't get this down, the rest won't make any sense. All righty. We've been going to this thing for quite some time now. If there's any questions, please come unmute and share those. If you got a chat line that you got a question, please share those. Any thoughts, please share those as well before we sign off here tonight. I thank everybody for attending. I thank you for being a part of this. I thank you for having an interest in this and getting better at what you do. I thank you for being a part of Retirement Income Life and that we're all growing and learning together. I thank you for having interest in the psychology of the sale. So thank you, Joe. Appreciate your kind words, brother. Appreciate you being on as always. Step by step, little by little, inch by inch is how you do this. We're going to take this elephant and take small bites. Thank you, Michael, for the kind words. And just take it in small bites. Next thing you know, you're going to have a presentation that's going to be rock solid. I'm telling you right now, it's going to be rock solid. So take your time and make sure you get this down point by point. Well, until we meet again next week, same time, same bat station, as they call it. Good luck out there and good selling, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for the kind words. Y'all have a good night.